Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Be Europe show. I'm Harry.
And I am Vlora from Eurodesk, and we are very happy to be here again for the fourth episode of the Be Europe project, which will take us today on a virtual journey through Spain.
Speaking of Spain, Vlora, I have a question for you. And a lot of people confuse the answer to this, but what is the capital city of Spain?
Well, I know the answer. It's Madrid and not Barcelona, which is the highest capital in Europe, and it's located exactly in the center of Spain.
Correct. Actually, a lot of people confuse that. A lot of people believe that it is Barcelona, but no, it is in fact Madrid. And as many people will know, Spain also has two extensive groups of islands. So they have the Canary Islands and the Balearic Islands, which I probably messed up, but you know what I mean. And but the highest point of the
Yeah.
country actually located at the Canary Islands with Mount Tibi, which is also the highest volcanic structure and the most voluminous in the European Union. I actually didn't know that before we researched.
Wow, a lot of Guinness World Record about natural stuff in Spain. Really, I discovered a lot when I was researching a bit about the country, and I was really surprised about all these things, which I didn't know as well. But let's talk now about my favorite food. As you know, Harry, my favorite topic, Harry, as you know, it's food. So usually the Spanish people eat 5 times per day, and first they start with a breakfast, like everyone, but then after at mid morning they can have another small breakfast or aperitivo, which is followed by lunch, and later a little snack or merienda in the afternoon before dinner. And finally, they are having dinner very late, actually, for the European standard, let's say. So they have dinner around at 9 or 10 p.m. in the evening.
Wow, I don't know how they eat so much food in one day. I don't think I could do it. But I do love traditional Spanish food. I'm very fond of a paella, tortillas, and churros, of course, as well. So maybe I could give it a go. I might need to add a few extra meals into my everyday.
Well, if it's so good, I mean, I can imagine it's not a big effort. Well, but you know that in Spain they also have a lot of festivals because they are really party people, and that's why we really love them. And they, as I said, they have a lot of festival, and most exciting and popular one are, for example, La Tomatina, which is a festival in which participants throw tomatoes and get involved in a tomato fight. So I guess you're gonna get super dirty at the end of this festival. And another one, which is very popular, it's Fellas of Valencia, where locals create giant papers, match figures representing people displayed, notable people, and these are displayed in the city and burned at the end of the celebration. So,
I
wow.
have actually, yeah, I actually have heard of that. So that's a part of it was added to UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list in 2016. So it's quite world renowned. But I don't think I'll be going to over anytime soon to have tomatoes thrown at me. I think that's a bit too dirty for my liking. But anyway, we I think we have enough of a flying visit of Spain to get us started and to introduce today's guest. I'm
Yeah,
delighted to say that we're joined by Jose Juan. Is he on the line with us here?
here it is. Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Hola, hi.
Hello. Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you
welcome.
so much. Y feliz Día de Europa. Happy Europe Day.
Happy Europe Day.
Exactly.
Happy Europe Day.
Exactly.
I
What's the
suppose
best? Sorry, what's the best occasion to celebrate Europe's Day with the Be Europe project? Come on.
the perfect way to spend Europe Day. And I think the perfect way to get started, Jose Juan, is maybe if you could give us a little bit of information about who you are and I suppose what you do.
Perfect. So I'm Jose Juan, but most of my international friends call me JJ. So feel free to call me JJ. I come from Andalusia in southern Spain, and most specifically from a city called Jerez de la Frontera, which is, by the way, the sherry wine city and the birthplace of Spanish horses and flamenco. So you're more than invited to come. I'll be so happy to get you around and have some tapas together.
Oh my God. I wish I
Yeah,
can come soon.
please. And yeah, I'm 24 years old. I study law and international relations. And that's why I studied in Brazil for 6 months and in Italy for another 6 months. So yeah.
And what are you doing right now?
Okay. So Right now, I'm doing an internship in the Spanish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm part of the Latin America and the Caribbean department, and I must say I love it there.
We can imagine. And we also, of course, we know some things about you, and we know that you are passionate about empowerment, regional integration, processes, and democratic values, which are really heavy and interesting topics, of course. But where did this passion comes from? Like, did your study, of, I imagine, have influenced this passion that you have about these topics, or it's something more personal, let's say?
I think all this passion come actually from nowhere. Because my mom, for instance, she studied psychology, and my father, he used to be a bullfighter, a torero. So then my studies, I think, kind of followed these passions that I don't really know where they come from.
Was he
And I
disappointed?
actually, oh, tell me?
Sorry, was he disappointed when you didn't become a bullfighter?
Not at all.
Well, definitely not democracy with the bullfight. You cannot apply that.
Yeah, and I also wanted to share with you why I'm passionate about these topics. For instance, regarding regional integration processes, I'm super fan because they have proven to be so useful for citizens, for us to have a better life in peace, and it just totally makes sense. And regarding youth empowerment, well, it is very important for me because I believe we young people have so much to offer, so much energy, and we really want to make things better. We want to change society for the better, but at the same time, I think we're not given the appropriate space to do so. So, as I see it in Spain, this leads to a kind of generalized feeling of disappointment, and then this is the reasons why many young people, I think, we're not active citizens. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's really important. And by the way, the Conference on the Future of Europe, it was, I think, an example of I mean, I'm not saying it was perfect, but it has proven to. I mean, there's
To
room for
bring together,
improvement.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Harry,
yeah.
weren't you part of this as well? Or am I
Yeah,
wrong? Yeah,
I
you
yeah,
were
I,
too.
I had the pleasure of going to see the Conference of the Future of Europe in Maastricht as a part of the European Pool of Young Journalists, and I got to see firsthand the experience, and I think it's incredible. I spoke about this previously, but the diversity of voices and the different viewpoints involved. I actually went along, and I was in Maastricht, and one of the participants was my postman.
Wow.
Believe it or not, out of all of the people in all the world was the postman.
World is so small,
So
really.
so small, and it just shows. And the Conference of the Future of Europe is obviously concluding today on Europe Day, and I think we'd have seen the real value in that process and getting different voices along. And I think, as you said, JJ, it's such an important process, and really make sure that we get as many voices as possible involved. I'm also interested in speaking to you, apart from your studies, obviously. We know you've also participated in many various Erasmus Plus youth exchanges and courses abroad. Can you tell us a bit about them? And I suppose what made you want to get involved in them, and what kind of started that in your mind?
Oh yes. So I declare myself an Erasmus Plus addict. You will see, and you will understand now why. So these projects, they are awesome, really. So basically, you travel to another country with a group of people of your own country, and then you learn about a specific topic. I don't know, for instance, climate change, for like a week or even more, with facilitators that usually they know really well what they're doing, and you're living with foreign people 24/7. So the way you learn, it's not like in school with books or anything like that. It's you actually learn by playing, and it's the so-called non-formal education. So I started to attend these projects in 2017, and ever since I have not stopped. And I forgot to mention one of the most important things. You actually don't need to pay anything because it's fully covered by the EU.
That's
And
something very important to be said every time, because
yes,
people do not believe that all these beautiful projects, they are really free, and because of it's a Europe paying, let's say, for you and for
exactly.
your development. So yeah, definitely worth
Yeah.
saying.
It happened to me. I was telling young people all over Andalusia, guys, it's free, and they were not believing it. Like it was difficult.
Yeah, because I mean, you can get the chance to travel abroad, to stay somewhere, to get an accommodation for free, food for free, let's say. So, and plus learn something for free. Like this is something really unbelievable sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm interested. Speaking of learning something as well, what were your biggest learnings from them? So as you said, you're a bit of an addict, so you've had a lot of experiences. So I'm sure you've picked up a lot of things along the way. So obviously we know it's free, and that's so important to push to people. It is free. It's available to anybody within the EU. So take advantage of those. But what were the biggest learnings, or I suppose the experiences that you had along the way?
So it's hard to list all the things I've learned thanks to Erasmus Plus projects, but I think I'm now like a better version of myself for sure, thanks to all these experiences. And it's not only what you learn by traveling and having these deep connections with people from all around the world. It's also about how these people actually change you. And I think I'm more empathetic, I'm more open-minded than I was before. Now I see every person as a blank page, and I try not to assume stuff or judge based on first impressions. I'm also more aware of how the different circumstances we face during our lives shape us and have an impact on us. And I've learned that, I don't know, that we're all precious. And I also developed a lot of my self-confidence. I don't know. There's a lot going on in there. It's just like a perfect babble. It's truly magical, and I have no words actually to describe how good it is.
Yeah, but you described it perfectly, I would say, because I also participated in many Erasmus Plus projects, but not only also Erasmus, etc. But all these projects that we have the chance to live, they somehow shape you and shape you in a positive way, because you are a new person at the end, and you really are free of all the prejudice and all the limitation that you can put yourself if you live in the same village for forever. Like this, you are really an open-minded person you become, and thanks to just 10 days, if you go somewhere else for 10 days, you can just already become someone new. So that's really a fast change, and it's open really to everyone. But we know that you participated in some projects that were organized by the Council of Europe, and we know that you consider yourself as an Iberian, Mediterranean, European citizen. So a Pandora base, let's say. So, what is your idea about European identity? What does it mean for you to be a young European? Because that's the main topic of our show.
So first, I would like to speak a bit about identity itself, because I think identity is like the starting point from where we look around. I mean, we situate ourselves in a specific place in the world based on the identity we think we have. And then comes this process of trying to understand reality around us, and which is actually, as you said, also influenced by prejudice or stereotypes. I mean, after all, I think we're social animals, and we tend to search for certainty. I don't know, for example, speaking of stereotypes, I'm Spanish, I come from Andalusia, from the south. My father used to be a bullfighter, so this would mean I'm quite sociable and passionate and easygoing, right? Well, actually, in my case, it is. It's true, but that doesn't mean that it will be the case for everyone else in here, and that's also fine. But for me, it was thanks to these projects, to these Erasmus Plus projects, that I really find my identity. And based on these experiences, I learned something really, really important. And it's that identities, they're not exclusive, but they are inclusive. So for instance, as you said, I feel Andalusian, I feel Spanish, Iberian, Mediterranean, European, and even Latino. I mean, I speak Portuguese, and visiting Portugal, it has always felt like going home. But I've also felt like home in other Mediterranean countries such as Tunisia, Italy, or Turkey. And in Latin America, and of course, I also felt this sense of belonging. So, I mean, I think the process of building up my identity, I think it might never end. And what I want to say with this is that identities should be a tool to build bridges, and not a tool or something to burden down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. As you said, it's something that I suppose sets you apart and hopefully connect you with more people. Which is it's a wonderful point, JJ. I'm curious to know, you're clearly very passionate, and I suppose you probably have a good answer to this, but what do you think are the advantages, or some of the advantages of being a European? in your opinion? As somebody who's engaged so actively, I suppose, in so many of the different programs and initiatives, what do you think are the biggest benefits or advantages?
So before speaking about the advantages, I would like to tell you how I feel as a European, or what it means to me.
Yes, please.
So as I see it, being European means that even if we might have some cultural differences between us, we all share a common way of understanding things, common values, common goals, and also common aspirations. So for me, being European means being exceptional in the way that after centuries of war between each other, we decided to put an end to how things work in the past, and we decided to build a better and fairer world through dialogue, democracy, and compromise. So I find this not only amazing, but revolutionary, like really. And I think the advantages of being European, it's not like the Erasmus Plus projects or the free roaming or the cheap flights we have between our countries, or the fact you can go anywhere in Europe to live and work and still enjoy the same rights that you would enjoy in your own country. I mean, all these things, they're great, but this would mean that being European is only okay if we receive something in exchange. And this perspective, for me, it's like both incomplete and quite sad, to be honest, because for me, the most important advantage of being European is as simple as sharing values, sharing a common identity, and being able to live in peace, which is something very important right now.
Wow, really, I'm touched by what you said, because it's exactly what we feel, and you expressed it with the perfect words, literally, especially today, that is the 9th of May, when we celebrate Europe Day. And these are the values where Europe was born. So really, you said it perfectly, and there was no better way to say it, actually.
Oh my,
And
thank you.
and because of course you mentioned all these values, and of course Europe is based on multiculturalism. And what is your opinion about multiculturalism in Europe?
So multiculturalism is certainly an issue for a few, but fortunately it's not an issue for the many. For example, my country in Spain, we're a really decentralized country. Regions have so much power. We protect our regional languages, and we believe cultural diversity is a source of richness. In Spain, we might be small geographically if compared to other nations worldwide, for example, Brazil, but every region is different, and the majority of us, we're really proud of our commonly shared cultural heritage. So I wanted to tell you something, a small story. I think stories are great to sometimes answer to questions. And
Yeah.
so it's a Erasmus Plus story. I was in Greece and doing a project, and there was a boy in the Spanish group coming from a small, very, very small town in Catalonia. And he believed that the rest of the Spanish group, we were not going to be nice to him just for the fact that he was coming from this region, which we all know is struggling due to nationalism, and which in turn is linked to identity, right? So after he realized everything was more than all right, he even decided to wear a bracelet with the colors of the Spanish flag. And he told me that his friends at school would not see that in a nice way. And what I'm trying to say is that multiculturalism is definitely not a problem. The problem comes when identity and culture are instrumentalized as a weapon against each other, and when it's used as a political tool instead of seeing it as a source of knowledge and richness, which in my opinion is what it really is. And after all, the European Union it's all about multiculturalism and coexistence. It's a common ground for those united in diversity. And for a more external point of view, I mean, humanity has been mixing up for ages. Migrations are as natural as rain in the world's history. And even forests are naturally more stable when there's a variety of plants and trees growing on them. So it's true that some European countries have gone from a supra-culturalist perspective to a multicultural one. And I think this is the right thing to do, but some others still have not. And we have to get over that. And I mean, multiculturalism, I think it's not a problem. We all know that people actually don't want to leave their countries. They are actually forced to leave their countries. And what really is the problem is inequality, in my opinion. And I believe like that multiculturalism, it has come to stay. There are certain things in our world that need to change. And I mean, we all know Europe is a real example of this, that coexistence is possible under common values that respect human dignity. So
Exactly.
I mean, I'm totally in favor
We,
of multiculturalism.
and we are a perfect example. Even today, we are talking and we all agree. We all share the same values. We all have the same open minded vision of the world. So it's very easy to find something that connects people. So if you just want it, of course.
Yeah, and I think that connection as well is like on Europe Day, we recognize the achievements of the European Union. I think that connection is one of them. It's the idea that we do have our differences, but we're the same in so many different ways, as well, which is really nice, and I think connects us all nicely. I'm curious to know, JJ, how do you think people view how do you think people from Spain see Europe? How do you think what's the mindset towards Europe and Spain?
Easy question. Really, because Spain is the most pro-European country in the EU, and the Eurobarometer shows every now and then this fact. I mean, for us young people in Spain, we see Europe as a land of progress, opportunities, and we also see Europe as a solution to our problems, because to be honest, we don't trust our politicians that much to solve the issues that affect us, but we do trust Europe in that sense. So we have a really good opinion on Europe, and actually for us young people, Europe also means amigos, friends, because we're the second most visited country in the world, and we're so happy to receive the millions and millions of Europeans that come all year round to visit us. So you're more than welcome to come again. I'm inviting you over.
Yeah, we will do it for sure. But you know that that I can confirm what you said, because in any project I participated in, any Erasmus Plus, in any project abroad, there was always this group of Spanish people that were part of this project in any part of Europe. So you are, let's say, everywhere, and that's because it shows that you really love going abroad, enjoying Europe, and living really the life and the benefits from Europe behind. So that's correct, of course. And you are one of those, because of course you participated, as you said before, in many Erasmus Plus projects. In particular, I would like to talk about your experience with the youth exchange that you did in Bosnia and in Estonia, because as I get the chance to know from you, these were the most, let's say, important for you, for your growth. And did you had the chance in this occasion to notice some differences between Bosnian or even Estonians and young Spanish people? So did you like recognize some differences that really said, oh, wow, that's really different? I don't know. Yeah. Or even in particular about accessibility to youth opportunities, something that really make you put attention on that.
So here's the thing. I cannot be objective with Estonia because I have friends there that are like family to me. And that's why I think I felt really comfortable in Estonia, even though we're culturally so different. But actually not too much, because once we ended up dancing on top of some picnic tables with random Estonians in a pub, and I can assure you that our friends are the most Spanish Estonians friends ever. They like sharing wine. Actually, we made history in our city because we sent them for the first time ever a full package of sherry wine to Estonia. And I don't know, they really like us, except for the fact, this is different, that they're not afraid of awkward silences, and they get along with social distance, which is definitely not our case. And yeah, we love hugging. It's like that. And regarding Bosnians, when I went there, I could still feel that the society has been impacted because of the war. I could see some people didn't trust us foreigners, but it was totally the opposite, the other way around with young people, because they were always willing to help us anytime, for example, with the language or with some last minute problems we had. And oh my God, Sarajevo, the capital, it's so nice. It's really worth the visit. And the landscapes.
And what about
oh my God, yeah.
Accessibility in particular for youth opportunities? Do you think that as you get the chance to meet a lot of young people from these countries. Do you think that they are aware of all the opportunities that, for example, in Spain, as in Spain you love a lot, Europe, of course, you maybe promote much more these opportunities? Do you think the same happens also in these countries?
So, for instance, Bosnia and Herzegovina is not a member of the EU,
Yeah, of course, yes.
in this sense, I noticed that many young people there, they tend to emigrate to countries such as Germany to find a job, because there are many opportunities, job opportunities there, and this is something not as common in Spain or in Estonia. So, in this sense, I believe that the youth in Bosnia have less opportunities than us. Yes. And I would love it if they could finally make it to the EU and be a member in the near future. Oh, and by the way, did you know the Bosnian flag was designed by a Spanish diplomat?
No way, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Too many facts about Spain today we are discovering. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, JJ, in terms of equality and equality in Europe, what do you think? What's your views on equality in Europe? And I suppose, have you ever experienced equality not being respected?
Mm-hmm. So I think equality will be a reality in Europe when equality won't be a topic anymore, as it's not a topic anymore, the right to vote, for instance. Yet having paid internship is still a topic. So I think we're going in the right direction. It's in our agenda, but there's still a lot to be done. And I do have experience in a situation where equality was not respected somehow. Get prepared for another Erasmus Plus story. So basically, we were in a project with some Eastern European countries participating in it. And with the Spanish team, we did a presentation on our country situations in terms of LGBTQ plus rights. Because Spain, just in case that you don't know, we're one of the most LGBTQ friendly countries in the world. And we wanted to share this to break the taboos around it, knowing, of course, that in Eastern Europe, the situation is way different. So surprisingly, at the end of the project, a girl coming from one of these countries, she came to us and she told us she was lesbian, but that was something she couldn't even share, not only with the rest of her group, but also in her country, as they would just not accept her. So it's not only that equality was not respected. What happened, and what happens still in Europe, is that in the 21st century, there are still places where equality isn't even an option. And that's really sad.
Yeah, that is very sad, as you said. I think it's hard to believe, because I think sometimes we take for granted, even in our home countries, how that might be received, but it's just not obviously across the board, and there's still a long way to go. And as you said, it's not a conversation that we really have true equality. So no, it's a very good point.
And how would you think Europe can become a more inclusive place? Like, talking about this, what do you think can be, of course, not the solution, because that's a very big topic, but some few suggestions that you can share that you notice and you think, oh, this can be done differently, and it's so easy to be done.
Mm-hmm. So I think we all know Europe has undergone several revolutions, right? I don't know, from the Industrial Revolution to the present technological one. Yet what about the emotional revolution? Because in a world where everything goes so fast and there are still many structural problems persisting in our societies, for instance, young people struggling with mental health, people facing racism or getting paid less just because of their gender. I mean, we need to make sure that we're equipped with the necessary emotional tools to take care of both our well-being and to be able to be aware of the problems that many people are facing, probably in silence, so that we can finish with this destructive patterns of behavior. And I don't know, I believe there's so much suffering out there, and there are different layers of oppression we shouldn't ignore. So we need to be conscious of them in order to kind of deconstruct ourselves. For instance, in the case of men, I think we're emotionally a bit more reserved. We're told since we're little that emotions are not okay, that we cannot cry, that we can express our emotions.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we need to change this, but we need to be conscious of what's really going on and how society is shaping us to be able to change.
That's totally correct. And Yeah, I mean, of course, there are different levels and different things that can be done. But of course, if somebody focus on what you can do on your own, and if you, for example, encounter some in your path, someone who is struggling with something but is hiding in himself, that's already something you can do, and you can just speak up about that, and it's already a little change that we can implement. And but let's change a bit topic and just go over the the conversation.
Oh,
And
and I forgot to mention
of course, yeah,
education. It's like the key. I
education,
mean,
yeah,
of
exactly.
course. I mean, we need
We should
to,
also consider a revolution about that, especially
yeah.
because in Europe we have very different systems about that, and this creates a lot of inequalities. Even I can say this as an Italian, I always
Mhm.
face the fact that we finish the university very late, and that's not because we are slow, but because the system just let us finish the university when we are 24. And when we go on the looking for a job abroad, we have people from other countries that are 21, they are younger, they just graduated, and we look like old, but we just it's not our fault, let's say. So
Of course.
that's another big revolution that we should discuss seriously in Europe about. But
Yeah.
as I said, let's change a bit the topic so we can go through all the other questions that we have ready for you. And we know that you are also a member of EICA Youth Panel. Can you tell us a bit more about it, what it's about, and when did you decide to join it and why?
Perfect. So EICA is the European Youth Car Association. It's basically the leading youth car association in Europe. And actually, I'm here today thanks to them, because it was thanks to a newsletter which was linked to the European Youth Card that I found out about Erasmus Plus projects, and it all started there. So in the youth panel, we're 11 young people coming from all around Europe, and not only European Union member states. We also have people coming from Albania and Montenegro. And our main objective is to give EICA feedback and to propose new lines of action. For instance, I mean, it makes sense that a youth-oriented organization takes young people voices into account, right? So that's basically our mission. We're a really great team, and I'm so happy to be part of the youth panel. I joined last year, and ever since, it's been incredible so far.
And sorry, a question: how do you collect these inputs from young people and that you report then after?
So first we meet every 2 weeks, and then we go to our own friends, to our own universities, we try to identify the needs of people around us, and then that's how we articulate then an answer. And it's also really nice because we can have all the different perspectives of many different European countries, and yeah, that's the way that's how we do it.
That's a hard work.
Yeah, that's a lot of time and commitment. It sounds like a lot of work. And you're obviously an advocate on youth participation thanks to your work. And I suppose you were involved in the study session on youth advocacy and peace building. I'm curious to know, what was your experience of that program, and how was your experience in that program, and what did you do as a part of that? I'm curious to know a bit more about that youth participation part of your work.
Mhm. So that project was amazing. It was really great. It was organized by the Council of Europe, and as you said, IPAN, which is the Youth Peace Ambassadors Network, and they're a group of amazing young European peacemakers. So go check them out. The forum was really nice. We learned about peace, because peace is more complex than I thought it was. It's
Even
actually
now,
like,
we all understood it now,
yeah,
especially in this period,
exactly.
that is very fragile.
Indeed. And so we learned about peace. We also received training on advocacy and conflict resolution. So I liked it so much that then I repeated with them, and I did another training on peace building and mental health. And I'm so grateful for everything I've learned so far. Like, they're really great, and they know what they're doing.
Great to know, and you are involved in everything. I have the feeling. And in this framework, I know that EICA and the European Parliament launched the Stand for Something campaign in 2021. And how much you were involved in this campaign? What was it about actually?
So it was about the Conference on the Future of Europe. I mean, we were 21 activists coming from 16 different countries, and our objective was to reach young people, to collect their ideas on to how to improve Europe, and also to kind of finish this gap between the European Union and young people, because young people usually see the EU as something very far away, and the fact we were doing this intense work with them, not only online, we also, for example, in Andalusia, I was collaborating with the regional government, and we went to towns, we went to villages, we went to cities, we spoke with immigrants, with refugees. I mean, we wanted to get all the diversity of our regions and have really concrete proposals as to what young people were thinking. And I mean, the name is stand for something. So we were like, okay, what do you stand for? What's important for you? And the EU cares about you. And then we introduced the Conference on the Future of Europe. They were participating with ideas. I made 2 reports with hundreds of ideas. And I had the honor to present it to the EU Youth Coordinator, to the European Union Youth Coordinator, Ms. Sirakova. And I mean, it was great. I'm still processing everything that's been going on with Stand for Something campaign. And
we will check it out for sure. Now you really raised our curiosity, so we will check it.
Absolutely. And I know there's other organizations that you're involved in at a local level. I know that might sound mad to people who are listening, because they're thinking, how does he have time for anything else? I'm assuming you don't eat or sleep, so you're clearly just constantly working. But can you maybe talk to us a bit about the local work that you're doing with organizations locally?
Actually, for instance, today I slept only 4 hours because we were traveling from Strasbourg to Madrid by train yesterday, 13 hours, 0 emissions. So sleep deprivation is something. But going to your question again, I've been cooperating with some organizations locally and nationally. The first was AJ Inter, which is an association in Jerez, in my city. They make a lot of Erasmus Plus projects. They cooperate with NGOs. They host European volunteers. And I also cooperate with Talento para el Futuro. I'm vice director of Talento Europa, which is like the European department. And what we're trying to do in Talento para el Futuro is to influence different stakeholders so that they take the voice of youth into account. It's basically youth advocacy and lobby, even though I don't like the word lobby, but it is. And last but not least, I'm part of JEF Madrid, and JEF stands for Young European Federalist, and we support a stronger and more united Europe. That's why we went to Strasbourg. We were demonstrating there, and it was so exciting to see on the streets, not only young people, but also old people. Like this intergenerational dialogue going on the street. It was really emotional for me. And yes, I'm everywhere. You're right.
Yeah, really, literally. And of course, you are the best person in this case to ask about this question. So of course, today is not just Europe Day, but this year it's the European Year of Youth. And what are your plans for this special year and for the future? Of course, I imagine participating in even more projects in your future.
I'm going on this Thursday to another project in Poland. I really
you were right. He will never gonna sleep.
He's never gonna sleep. I don't think he has time. Did you hear at the beginning where we mentioned all of the meals traditionally the Spanish people eat? I don't know how you have time to have one meal, never mind anything else.
In Andalusia, do you know tapas?
Yes.
Of course.
Of course. So that's what we do. That's why we eat a lot. It's impossible not to. Okay. So yeah, in the European Year of the Youth, I actually have a great news to share with you. And it's
Go ahead.
Get prepared because it's great. I mean, the main European associations in Spain, we all joined and we applied together to host the local European youth event in Santander, in Cantabria, in north of Spain. And luckily for us, we've been chosen. So we will have a night in Spain, and we're so excited. I'm part of the team. So part of my plan this year is going to be to organize it, to try for the eye to be a really successful eye. And for sure, I will apply to more projects. That's not going to change.
Of course. If you want, of course, to involve some other young people, maybe the people traveling in Spain and that occasion, just tag Eurodesk on your stories while you're doing all this amazing stuff, and we will share so other young people will be aware of joining and all these events that are going to happen, especially this year.
And I think me and Vlora could do it a holiday maybe as well. So we
deserve it after all this project. Come on.
I think so too. I think a week in Spain. Look, we could take one for the team. You know, we could probably go along and
try
work.
Yeah, we will work from home. Yeah, and we will try the tapas and see if they're truly nice, as you are saying.
You have free accommodation. The accommodation, it's on me. Just come.
But Jose, just be careful saying this in a live show, because you never know how many people are going to listen to this.
Everybody in the audience is invited.
Let's start only for you two. Only for you two. Let's start from
just
that
be
point.
clear.
I have our final question, and it's my favorite question because I think the advice we've gotten so far has been great. I think really informative and inspiring, and I feel like you're gonna have a good answer for this one. But what advice would you give to young people? And it can be anything at all, but just based on your experiences and all of the amazing work that you're doing, what advice would you give to other young people who are listening today who are going, wow, I'm inspired, I want to do this? What would you say to them?
I would tell them not to be afraid, like to leave their comfort zone, to go on Erasmus Plus projects, to do some European solidarity corps volunteering. It's really life-changing, and I would tell them to explore, to go beyond their limits. And as we say in Spanish, tenemos que comernos el mundo. The world's out there waiting for us, so let's go. That's it.
Fantastic advice. And also in Spanish, now we will always remember this sentence in the native language. So yeah, JJ, I also call you like this now.
Sure.
So thank you a lot really for sharing your experience, your emotions and your personal story. And I really love the way you presented yourself and the way you shared your vision of Europe and also of life with us. It was really touchy for me as well.
Yeah, your enthusiasm is inspiring, and it's infectious. And I think anybody who's listening today will be just as energetic as I am about the idea of what they can go out and do and what the EU has to offer. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Renee. It's such an honor to be here.